Hi, Izzy. How are you today?
Hi, good. How are you?
Doing good. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Did
Oh,
you have a good
happy
day
past
yesterday?
Thanksgiving. Yeah, I did.
Oh, I'm so glad. Do you guys have any fun traditions that you usually do as a family?
Well, not much. Mostly just relaxing.
That's good. That's awesome. I love that. That's great to hear. So, okay, so we're diving in today. What would you say is your number one goal for this session?
Well, for this goal, I've been trying to think about it lately. Oh, no, that wasn't it. But how about take can I think like description of characters, like from like just non-picture books, like the description of the character, and kind of think of like what kind of voice would they have.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so then, so characters, I know we've been using cartoon characters that maybe we hadn't seen before. So do you want to pull characters that are literary characters that you know about them, but that you haven't heard a voice created for?
Sure.
Or do you
Be
have
interesting.
any in mind, different types of
From
characters you want to look at?
well, let's see. How about from one picture book? How about let's do Sherlock Holmes? Since kind of like
Sure.
many people play them, but in like the like original like non-picture book, like the actual novel,
Right.
doesn't really kind of spark character voice.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, where you have so many people who've played Sherlock Holmes that it's like it could sound like almost anything. And then personality wise, and you might have your favorite Sherlock Holmes players, actors, but you have such variety that there's a lot to pull from there. Okay, so what would you say is maybe the number one defining characteristic of who Sherlock Holmes is?
Detective genius.
Hmm. I agree. Detective genius. Love it. What else?
Let's see. Like good with observation.
Okay. He's very
Like look at
observant.
people. Yeah, kind of like look at people and immediately know everything about them.
So maybe insightful.
Yes, insightful.
Okay. Hmm. I feel like he can sometimes be kind of detached. Like he's not a very warm person.
Very kind of like strict, like
Okay.
seriousness.
Serious, strict. Love it. What else can you think of?
Hmm. Definitely wise.
Okay. I think of him as a little bit demanding,
Like give us the answer
like of
right.
Watson, and yeah, that he can be kind of demanding of others. And he's not very patient, I would say, either, with
Mm-hmm.
other people not being at his level, so maybe impatient. He can be very hmm, he likes things to be a certain way, and it's like cleanliness standards and so maybe a little bit like exacting. Like if he has a maid, I would think that he would be very, you know, you would demand a lot of them, or even with Watson that he's like, you should be doing these things, like live up to my standards.
And maybe even a bit proper.
Proper. I agree with that. I think he's also kind of proud that he has quite a
Proper,
bit of
proud.
pride. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. These are all really good. Anything else you can think of that we should add?
And suddenly, since history takes place in like England, definitely talking British accent.
All right. Yes. Do you think of him as like a little bit of a rebellious person? Like I don't think of him
Rebellious,
as
that's
like
the
a
word I was
rule
looking for.
follower. Yeah.
Yeah, rebellious follower.
Like he doesn't really I feel like he thinks he's kind of above what other people have to be expected to do. That he's like better than everyone else. A little bit
Yeah. And maybe also very focused.
focused. I agree. Yeah. Yeah, these are all really good descriptive words for the character. I love it. Okay. So, with that in mind, let's see. I'm sure there are quite a few monologues out there for Sherlock.
I actually pulled one up.
You did. Okay, great. So you came prepared for it. Okay, great. So then let's pick a section of it, or if it's a short one, we'll do the whole thing. And let's go ahead and just have you silent read through first, and then we're going to have you just read it out loud one time, just getting it into your mouth, getting those words, piecing that together, and just sort of getting your mouth around it, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. It's a long monologue, but I think I got a good stopping point and during the middle
Okay.
of it. All right. And I and I'm kind of having a hard time like pronouncing this word right here.
Oh, voracious. Voracious.
Voracious. Okay.
Mhm.
Got it. All right, here goes nothing. I'll do my best here. Please remember that I have heard of your husband before. I'm a, v- I am a voracious reader of the newspaper. I know that Thomas Chapman is considered by many to be the most inefficient investigator in the Metropolitan Police Force. I know he has one of the highest arrest records in Scotland Yard. I know he's been investigated more than once on suspicious of corruption and brutality, but has never been convicted. And I know that he has been married 3 times, most recently to one Elizabeth Durham. That would be you, Mrs. Chapman. Not 2 months after he was cleared of any wrongdoing in the death of his second wife, Catherine Featherstone, who drowned in a bathing pool at the Hampstead Heath. He'd married her 2 years after his first wife, Margaret Cleary, was killed from falling off of a horse. Do I have that right so far?
Nice. Okay, good. All right, so let's try. Can I have you try reading it just in your regular voice once?
Okay. Sorry, my kind of.
You're
All right.
good.
Please remember that I have heard of your husbands before. I am a voracious reader of the newspaper. I know that Thomas Chapman is considered to have, by many, to be the most inefficient investigators in the metropolitan police force. I know
Metropolitan.
that. Oh, right. It's
Okay.
this one. All right. It's force. There it is. I know he has one of the highest arrest records in Scotland Yard. I know he's been investigated more than once on sp on suspicion of corruption and brutality, but never has been convicted. And I know he has been married 3 times, most recently to one Elizabeth Durham. And that would be you, Mrs. Chapman. Not 2 months after he was cleared of any wrongdoing in the death of his second wife, Catherine Featherstone, who drowned in a bathing pool at Hampstead Heath. He married her 2 years after his first wife, Margaret Clearan, was killed in a fall from a horse. Do I have everything right so far?
Good. Yeah, he definitely is very well educated and he uses very descriptive, precise words to explain things. So, some tricky words in there, but you're doing great. All right. So then, um, I would also say he tends to speak very distinctly and have very good articulation as well. So making sure that those words are just very clear, um, with distinct diction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Can we try that again? So
sure.
let's
In the
focus on
character
that.
voice?
Let's just do it in your regular voice so we can make sure that we get these words really clean and clearly articulated.
Okay. Please remember that I have heard of your husband before. I'm a voracious reader of the newspaper. I know that Thomas Chapman is considered by many to be the most in efficient investigator in the metropolitan, oh, metropolitan and police force.
Metropolitan police.
Metropolitan. All right, thank you, Vandy.
Yeah.
Metropolitan Police Force. I know he has one of the highest arrest records in Scotland Yard. I know he has been investigated more than once on suspicion of corruption and brutality, but has never been convicted. And I know that he has married 3 times, most recently to one Elizabeth Durham, and that. would be you, Mrs. Chapman. Not 2 months after he was cleared of any wrongdoing in the of his second wife, Catherine Featherstone, who drowned in a bathing pool at Hampstead Heath. He married her 2 years after his first wife, Margaret Cleary, was killed in a fall from a horse. Do I have everything right so far?
Yes, very good. All right. Excellent. So, how is that feeling? A little bit better, right? That each time you do it, it's a little bit easier, right? To say.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Yeah, because there are some tricky words in there, like Hampstead Heath is a place in England, right? But it's not a place that we're very familiar with. So that can be, tricky when you're reading through it. It's like, wait a minute, how do I say that? What is that? So it takes a little bit of practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can we do it one more time just to make sure we really lock it down? So metropolitan is one, and then Hampstead Heath is another. Just making sure we get those words really clear.
Hampstead Heath. Got it. And metropolitan, ver voracious. Okay.
Voracious, yes.
Voracious, got it.
Hmm.
And efficient
Inefficient.
and efficient. Got it.
Yep.
Okay. Please remember that I have heard of your husband before. I'm a voracious reader of the newspaper. I know that Thomas Chapman is considered by many to be the most, that word. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Efficient. Here, I'll put it down for
Efficient.
you. I'll put it down in the chat for you.
Efficient. Yes. Efficient.
Efficient. Okay, so I did get it right.
Yeah, you've got it.
I know, all right. I know that Thomas Chapman is considered by many to be the most efficient investigator in the Metropolitan Police Force. I know that he has the highest arrest records in Scotland Yard. I know he has been investigated more than once on suspicion of corruption and brutality, but has never been convicted. And I know that he has been married 3 times, most recently to one Elizabeth Durham. That would be you, Mrs. Chapman. Not 2 years after he was cleared of any wrongdoing in the death of his second wife, Catherine Featherstone, who drowned in a bathing pool at Hampstead Heath. He married her 2 years after his first wife, Margaret Cleary, was killed in a fall from a horse. Do I have that right so far?
Good. Excellent. How's that feel?
Good.
Better? Yeah.
Uh-huh. I
Okay.
think I got it now.
Good. All right. So now let's try adding a little bit more of the characterization and what's happening in the scene. You're very accusatory, I would say, at
Mm-hmm.
certain points. And then, so what would you say is your goal here? What do you need? What do you want?
Like I need the information, like let's see. In the monologue here, it says here that um someone has been receiving some strange letters from has been receiving some notes that talk lately about her husband from about her husband's and about her husband's death and has gone to me hoping to discover the identity of who's writing these letters.
Right.
And I take on it as a different situation maybe like she herself is writing it,
Hmm.
and it's kind of like, well, maybe it's like tricking me,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah,
know that I'm not
maybe.
like falling for that because I know that I'm smarter than anyone in all of England.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. So you are above that. You're smarter than that. You're not falling for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Excellent. All right. So then, um, so you're kind of superior, maybe condescending at times,
And maybe a little suspicious.
suspicious. I like that. And what do you want from her in this moment?
Like maybe like a little bit more information since I pointed at her during that would be you, Mrs. Chapman.
Yeah, right. Um, so yeah, I think you definitely want something. You want
Maybe want her to confess.
information, maybe a confession. Yeah, you want her to confess. So do you suspect her of maybe helping her husband
Yeah, I think so.
or like covering up things for him, protecting him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we want a confession and we're gonna get it. What are some of the ways that you try to get her to confess? Um,
Maybe spilling
Maybe like
more deep,
intimidating her.
intimidating her, maybe a little bit of shouting, like slamming the door, like during
Hmm.
like,
So
and
maybe
most
like
recently
frightening
to
her.
one, yes, like to one Elizabeth Durham. That would be you, Mrs. Chapman.
Right. So we are scaring her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there, I mean, the line is that would be you, Mrs. Chapman. So maybe we're accusing her in that moment.
You, Mrs.
Hmm. Yeah.
All right.
And it does seem like you're like exposing her because it's like, wait a minute, there's something fishy about how like you're this other person and how quickly you got married and stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So
All right.
be trying to get her to confess. Okay, let's try it again.
All right. Please, character voice
Let's just do it in your voice
or
first
regular
and we'll
speaking
add that
voice?
on. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Please remember that I have heard of your husband before. I am a voracious reader of the newspapers. I know that Thomas Chapman is considered by many to be the most efficient investigator in the Metropolitan Police. I know that he has one of the highest arrest records in Scotland Yard. I know he's been investigated more than once on suspicion of corruption and brutality, but never has been convicted. And I know that he's been married 3 times, most recently to one Elizabeth Durham. That would be you, Mrs. Chapman. Not one, not 2 months after he was clear of any wrongdoing in the death of his second wife, Catherine Featherstone, who drowned in a bathing pool at the Hampstead Heath. He married her 2 years after his first wife, Margaret Clearan, was killed in a fall from a horse. Do I have that right so far?
Yes. Good.
Kind of hurt myself in the slap,
Oh, well, and another thing
but I'm
too,
okay.
at the end when you say, do I have that right? I don't think that you think you're wrong, right? I think it's more of you trying to engage her and get her to talk to you, like
Oh, okay.
opening
Like,
up room
do
for
I
her
have
to,
that right so far?
Right. That, like, I think you're pretty sure that you're correct, but that you're using this to try to get her to, to talk back. Maybe you want her
Mm-hmm.
to try to defend herself. Maybe you want an explanation as to why she did the things that she did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
let's try. We're going to add on the character voice now. So, do I have that right
Okay.
so far? We're going to add the British. Now, remember, he's very proper, educated, well-to-do. He's more elite.
Focus,
So, more
elite.
crisp. Think of it's not like Cockney, like low brow, servant class, like I'm a scullery maid, I muck out stalls
Mm-hmm.
in the stables, right?
But
He's
more like a
very
Mary Poppins
educated.
sounding voice.
Correct, yes.
All right, I can do that.
Mhm.
Please remember that I have heard of your husband before. I am a voracious reader of the newspaper. I know that Thomas Chapman is considered by many to be the most effective investigator in the Metropolitan Police Force. I know that he has one of the highest arrest records in Scotland Yard. I know he has been investigated more than once on suspicion of corruption and brutality, but never has been convicted. And I know that he's been married 3 times, most recently to one Elizabeth Durham. That would be you, Mrs. Chapman. Not 2 months after he was cleared of any wrongdoing in the death of his second wife, Catherine Featherstone, who's who drowned in a bathing pool at the Hampstead Heath. He'd married her 2 years after his first wife, Margaret Clearing, was killed in a fall from a horse. Do I have that right so far?
Good. Nice. And what do you think that you're accusing her of? Do you think you're accusing her of maybe them killing his other wife, so he could be with her?
Yeah, so like maybe she got jealous of like maybe she got jealous of her first two wife and of the first two wives and like kind of killed them so only he and her husband could be the only couple.
Oh, like you think he was juggling all three women. Um,
But she
well,
was the
also
only
like in his
one.
work, he's been accused of being kind of violent and stuff too. So, yeah, I just am wondering like what is he accusing her of? So maybe they plotted
Mm-hmm.
together to kill his other wife or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or is
Okay.
it more that you think she knows what her husband's been doing and you need her help
Yeah, I think
to
that one.
catch him? Like maybe you're planting doubt in her mind. So less of accusing her, but trying to get her to turn on her husband and share information about
Yes.
him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's try it again,
Mm-hmm.
trying to get her to turn on him and be like, no, he would never. Like maybe she doesn't know these things and you're trying to like shock her into, giving up information that'll help you catch him.
All right. Here goes nothing. Please remember that I have heard of your husband before. I'm a voracious reader of the newspaper. I know that Thomas Chapman is considered by many to be the most effective investigator in the Metropolitan Police Force. I know he has one of the highest arrest records in Scotland Yard. I know he's been investigated more than once on suspicion of corruption and brutality, but has never been convicted. And I know he's been married 3 times, most recently to one Elizabeth Durham, that Mrs. Chapman, not 2 months after he was cleared of any wrongdoing in the death of his second wife, Catherine Featherstone, who's, who drowned in a bathing pool at the Hampstead Heath. He'd married her 2 years after his first wife, Margaret Cleary, was killed was killed in a fall from a horse. Do I have that right so far?
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, it's almost like you're trying to scare her, like make her think, oh my gosh, what if he kills me next? You know what I mean? Like trying to scare
Mm-hmm.
her into helping you find him. Maybe he's gone into hiding or something, and you think she knows where he is, and you're trying to frighten her and be like, he's gonna kill you next. Like this is a pattern, and you need to help us find him because otherwise bad things might happen. They haven't been married very long either, so she might not know all these things about him. And you're like, he's a scary dude. You need to be scared of him and you need to help us find him. So be a little more like you're concerned for her and trying to like protect her and trying to kind of frighten her into helping you find him this time. Let's try that.
Okay. Please remember that I've heard of your husband before. I'm a voracious reader of the newspaper. I know that Thomas Chapman is considered by many to be the most effective investigator in the Metropolitan Police Force. I know that he has one of the highest arrest records in Scotland Yard, and I know he's been investigated more than once on suspicion of corruption and brutality, but has never been convicted. And I know he's been married 3 times, most recently to one Elizabeth Durham, and that would be you, Mrs. Chapman. Not not 2 months after he was cleared of any wrongdoing in the death of his second wife, Catherine Featherstone, who drowned in a bathing pool at the Hampstead Heath. He'd married her 2 years after his first wife, Margaret Cleary, was killed in a fall from a horse. Do I have that right so far?
Yes, good. Very nice. And are you asking her if you have it right, or are you asking maybe your sidekick, you know?
Yes, my
Because
sidekick,
maybe
Dr.
she
Watson.
doesn't know, right?
Mm-hmm. Like, do I have that right so far?
Yeah, maybe like he has more information or something. So you could play it that way too, that you like turn and say it to Doc Watson, right? Instead of
Mm-hmm.
her in that moment. Like you could play with some different approaches to it. So you see how each time we did it, we sort of got a little more insight into the character, into what was happening here, and fine tuning it. Yeah. So I want you to keep working on that. I also want you to practice that British accent, British dialect. So I'm going to have you
Mm-hmm.
work with this website. We're going to go to Europe and United Kingdom, England. All right, so I'm going to send you this link in the chat. There we go. So this website has a whole bunch of recordings of different dialects from all over the world. Um, they have a lot of English recordings here. So um, you've got different areas as well, the Southwest, the Southeast, London, East Midlands, West Midlands, Yorkshire and Humber, Northwest, Northeast, right? So you have a lot. Let's focus on the London ones. So you've got 14 scripts or recordings to study and listen to, and those can help give you insights on that British accent that we're working towards, okay? So I want you to listen and study those London recordings this
Okay.
week. Sound good? Nice work today, Izzy. I do have to go because I'm about to have Jeremiah's lesson, but really nice work today.
Okay.
And I will see you next week,
Mm-hmm.
okay? On Wednesday.
Will do.
Yeah,
Thank
I'll
you.
see you Wednesday. Bye, Izzy.